Hey guys, how you doing? I'm running a little bit late. I apologize. My things have been a bit crazy here, and I'm finally, I think, getting the hang of this OBS streamy thing. I want to say hello, by the way. Happy Sunday to you guys. Hope all is doing well, and I'm looking in. Yes, I am live on air, so hello. Yeah, how are you guys doing? It's been a crazy week. Crazy week. It is kind of hard to actually process a lot of this, all the stuff that happened in the last 7 days, but that's what I'm hoping to do here with you guys on a Sunday. So the first thing I'm going to try to do actually is I'm going to do is to look at the chat and see how my sound is. So I think this is my chat window. That's good, and everything is, people are doing all right. That's good. Wow, what a week. All right, little bit about me, just as an update. I'm going to let you guys know I am on my way to Prague as of tomorrow morning, and so I probably won't be doing much in the way of videos this week. Instead, what I'm going to be doing is trying to catch up with some of the happy hours that I appeared on Kevin's channel, but I haven't had a chance to upload yet. That way, those of you who don't go to Kevin's channel, which, why would you not go to Kevin's channel? Come on, guys. But because that way you won't miss it. Or if you want to watch it again, I think the last one I put up was, I'm only as far behind as the New Year's Eve show where we did the year in review. So it's only a couple of them. Although I may have missed the Destiny one. But anyway, also, I want to give a shout out here. Oh, you get to see it there. Can you see? Yeah, my notorious RBG, a mate of mine, got me. Mate of mine got me this mug. I probably shouldn't put it right in front of the mic when I'm trying to speak. And I've got my fire going, and you've got your aircon going. There you go. I need to be warmer, and you need to be cooler, apparently. I love coffee. Oh, I love coffee. It really is like one of the things, in terms of pure enjoyment of life. All right, I'm also learning to get my mic in the right position, but in terms of pure enjoyment of life, there are two things that I really, really savor. And it never gets old, and it always makes me really grateful when I can experience it. One is like the first cup of coffee of the day, and actually, and sometimes the second cup is even better because I'm a bit more awake. But I love coffee in the morning. I absolutely love it. And the vanilla soy drink recommendation that H Bomber guy gave, again, as I changed my life. I honestly enjoy coffee more now with that soy in it than I did with milk. So that's really wonderful. And then the other thing that I love is sleeping until I wake up. That is the other small joy in my life, is the idea of going to sleep and then just waking up when my body is ready. I can't wait for retirement. My entire retirement is I'm going to just do an experiment where I let my body like live according to its own sleep cycle for like a month and see what weird hours I keep. Because I have a feeling that I just would keep staying up later and waking up later, and eventually I would just rotate like through an entire 24-hour system and doing that. Right. Okay. So what are we going to talk about? Well, as you guys know, I like to start off some Sundays with the social science moment. I sadly did not do so much reading ahead of time on this one because I'm getting ready to go to Prague. But let me see if I can pull some stuff out. Last time we were talking about some of the critiques of positivism, which is a good thing to know about. And all right, we're not up to alternatives to it. So, here's a little bit we can go. All right. Philosophical Toolkit. This also is from, by the way, if you guys want to follow along in little bits, Philosophy of Social Science by the Philosophical Foundations of Social Thought by Ted Benton and Ian Crabb from Palgrave Macmillan. And this is just a bit of a definition here about theories of knowledge. From page 3 of the introduction. The technical term for a theory of knowledge is epistemology. In the 17th century disputes about philosophy and science, there were two main alternative views in opposition to each other. Generally, the master builders had a rationalist view of the nature of knowledge. They were very impressed by mathematics, which seemed to arrive at almost absolute certain conclusions by formal reasoning. The 17th century French philosopher Descartes is probably the best known of the rationalists. His method of systematically doubting everything that could be doubted led him to the conclusion that even as he doubted, he must at least be thinking. So what could not be doubted was his own existence as a thinking being. This provided the certain foundation from which he was able to, at least to his own satisfaction, begin the task of reconstructing the whole edifice of knowledge. One more paragraph. The rival theory of knowledge, generally associated with the under-laborer view, was empiricism. For the empiricist philosopher, the sole source of knowledge about the world was evidence of our senses. At birth they held the human mind is a blank sheet, as it were, and our knowledge is acquired subsequently through learning to recognize the recurrent patterns in our existence and attaching general ideas to them. General knowledge, as distinct from mere belief or prejudice, is limited to the statements of these patterns in experience and what can be inferred from them. The apparent certainty of the conclusions of mathematical and logical arguments, which the rationalists were so impressed by, is due to the fact that they are true by definition. So the certainty of such statements as all bachelors are male, or 2 + 2 = 4, tells us nothing we didn't already know about the world. They are statements in which we make explicit the implications of the way we define certain words or mathematical operations. As we will see, the empiricist view of knowledge has been the one that most natural and social scientists have appealed to when making their claims to provide genuine or authoritative knowledge. It is also the view of knowledge which is closest to most people's common sense intuitions. Seeing is believing, or I saw it with my own eyes. And as we talked about last week, one of the critiques of empiricism, the one that sort of won out, is that empirical philosophical school assumed that our minds are blank slates, whereas later empiricists have pointed out that our brains are actually preset with certain processes, or the way that we perceive and package information is not sort of without its own predicates, as it were. So there you go, a little bit of philosophy on Sunday morning. All right. Okay. It's been, as I said, it's been quite the week. I'm going to switch over here to, which I think is my window of news. Let's just take a little review, because it has been almost overwhelming, the amount of events that have happened this week. I can't even go backwards and remember them all to be precise, but I know we had the revelation that there are more connections between the FBI investigation into the idea that Trump might be an actual agent of Russia. So for those of you who need to get caught up or need to be reminded, shortly after Trump went on television to say that he fired Mueller because of the Russia investigation that he was conducting, because Trump had decided it was a witch hunt and had no basis in reality. The FBI, I think, aware of all the other things going on, but at that moment decided to open up an investigation to investigate whether or not the president might be an unwitting agent of Putin. And that investigation only lasted for a few weeks, because it ended up that the Mueller investigation was also a result of his comments on the Lester Holt, Trump's comments on the Lester Holt video. So the actual investigation of him being a Russian agent didn't happen for very long, but the fact that it happened at all is a shock, is an absolute shock. And there is good reason to think that Trump is working not for the interest of the American people, but his own interests, and also that Trump is gullible enough and egotistical enough to buy Putin's version of what's good for Putin is good for Trump. That being, if Trump can help Putin lift the sanctions on Russia instituted by patriotic Americans, then Trump's tower will be able to be built in Moscow. It's an unstated quid pro quo. We also found out this week that Michael Cohen, I don't even know if it was this week. It's hard to keep track of all the revelations. But Michael Cohen did say that the Trump Tower, Moscow negotiations went much farther into the campaign timeline than Trump had indicated that he lied about this. You guys see that already? Yeah, I mean, it's not the greatest. Maybe I'll just go back to the fireplace because honestly, I'm not talking about what's on the screen. We had, that links up with the Paul Manafort stuff, tying it again to Russians, and yeah, it's just like the BuzzFeed thing. Now, I haven't checked up on the BuzzFeed story. The BuzzFeed story, it seems to me, has two parts, and it came out. The BuzzFeed story actually didn't tell us anything we didn't already know. If you look at Michael Cohen's, I think it was plea agreement, they showed it on one of the late night, or on one of the TV shows, the news shows. It says in there that individual one directed him to, to do things and cover things up. So the BuzzFeed story itself, having two federal law enforcement associates, people associated with the investigation, say that they, according to their perceptions, Trump did direct Cohen. The other part of it, so those two people, from what I last heard, BuzzFeed isn't retracting anything on their two independent sources who say that according to, in their understanding of the investigation, this direction was pretty clear. BuzzFeed also said that the Mueller investigation had information that they knew Trump had directed Cohen a long time ago, and that they sort of been sat on it. That was, I think, most people's, well, it ended up being focused on by a lot of people because the allegation that Mueller would have had this information and was sitting on it caused Democrats in the Congress to go, if that information exists, we need to see it now. If this is true and if this exists, then that's something we should see right away. Now, the Mueller team did what they've only done about 2 or 3 times before in this entire investigation period, which is to put out an official statement. And they said that they disputed the accuracy that some of the claims, sorry, just one second. Some of the claims made, some of the characterizations of the evidence and testimony that BuzzFeed said was possessed by the special counsel's office was not accurate. And that was where it left. Last time I saw, that's not entirely correct. BuzzFeed had said in response to this that they were standing by their story, that if they were very interested to know what particular details of those reports or evidence or testimony was inaccurate in their story. So they were hoping the special counsel's office would clarify, which they probably won't. So that was where that was left. So more allegations. And it really feels at this point like impeachment is an inevitability. More people are feeling, especially, and I mean, there's been people on the left who've wanted impeachment the whole time, and I've also been I've been pro-impeachment for a long time now. However, there's a difference between being pro-impeachment, or just too fast, just doing it, sort of rushing it through, and then there's following the process of investigations and establishing the case and then voting on impeachment. And that's the impeachment process I want to see. There have been some comments in the news of late, and I think these are well-founded, that perhaps congressional Democrats before were giving a bit too much deference to the Mueller investigation and saying, oh, we can't really do anything that could interfere or cross over or take over those topics. When you look back in history, the congressional investigations were going on at the same time as the special counsel's investigations. Pretty sure also with Bill Clinton, Republicans didn't stop investigating Bill Clinton because of the Ken Starr Whitewater investigation. And so I think there's a general change that maybe Congress needs to step up a bit here, being a bit more proactive. And if there are areas that Congress can carve out that are related to impeachment but not related to the other elements of the investigation, they should be going forward with those. And I would agree. I think that there's not even a good chance or a guarantee that this Mueller report is going to have anything of substance in it. You have to remember that I think there's been an assumption that Congress is waiting for the Mueller report because the Mueller report will be comprehensive and it will be transparent and it will be made public. But the interview with the guy who is the Barr, I can't remember his first name now, but the Attorney General nominee, Barr, his take was that he would release the report in guidance with the sort of statutory regulations, which are nothing. He could put a one-page memo just listing all of the indictments and convictions or whatever, and just put that out and say, these are the results of the Mueller investigation, and close it. So I don't think that there is any reason for Congress to defer to Mueller on items that have already been prosecuted. Certainly the Michael Cohen case, he's already pled guilty to campaign finance felonies involving the president at the president's direction. So even if Michael Cohen, he was directed by Trump to make those illegal campaign finance payments about to silence or to NDA away his marital affairs, and was instructed to lie about it. Why? Even if Mueller says he doesn't have direct evidence of Trump directing Michael Cohen to lie before Congress, we know Cohen lied before Congress, and we know Trump routinely directs his staff to lie for him. So it's not beyond a sort of a circumstantial evidence that fitting a pattern of behavior that Michael Cohen would have lied for Trump when he's lied for Trump in the past. I think, and that is something that Congress, that's public record. There's no reason that any of that stuff that Michael Cohen has pled guilty to needs to be covered up, needs to be done behind closed doors. And so I'm hoping very much that we're going to see real progress with the impeachment proceedings, that we're going to see a thorough investigation and a review and an airing of the public facts, because we all know Michael Cohen pled guilty to his felonies, but we don't know what else was potentially behind other activities that he can testify to. So Congress needs to get going on that. I'm glad to see the Democrats are proceeding apace with that investigation. So guys, should I have a look here at your comments? I don't have too much prep today. I'm teaching in Prague. I am teaching people how to do webinars. And I have to teach people how to use OPS. It's not other people's sidewalks. OBS, which is the program I'm using right now. And I don't really use it as a webinar per se, but I do use it. You can show people how to do it pretty quickly. I'm going to get a little bit bigger, see if I can read this off my own screens. Oh, I see people are talking about the Worski Tonka thing. I mean, I wasn't planning on talking about that because it's not really within my, it's internet blood sport dramas. I will give my take, I guess, because it's being talked about. Tonka acted really weird. So for those of you who don't follow sort of more the far right side of YouTube, let me just drink a little bit of my coffee out of my, where is she? Where is she? There we go. Doria's RBG mug. Internet blood sports was really big on a couple channels, two of them in particular, Andy Worski Live and the Morning Kumite, or the Kumite, I don't know if it was always in the morning. Andy Worski was the host of the Andy Worski program. Tonka did the Morning Kumite. They were, for a while, they did some stuff together, and then they fell out. My impression of Tonka is that he likes to shout at people, and he's really bad at constructing an argument. He's really good at shouting over people. And while that might play well on entertainment television and for, things like wrestling, not real wrestling, not like sport wrestling like, my nephews participate in, but the dramatic, choreographed soap opera for men, soap opera for straight men, you can maybe call it. He does a lot of that kind of shouting. He tends to his mouth writes checks, his ass can't. Cash, he wants to fight everybody, but when actually confronted with a real fight. So Andy Worski and Tonka fell out, and as usual in at least Tonka's worldview, it came down to, I'll fight you, fight me in real life. Back in the day, if you had to resort to fisticuffs over an internet debate, it showed what a fucking idiot you were. Like, if you couldn't make an argument well enough to convince people, or at least satisfy yourself, you're like, I can't beat you when my mind must beat you with my fist. That's the impression I have of Tonka. And Andy Worski and Tonka scheduled a fight. It was supposed to take place yesterday. And then there was just a series of shenanigans from Tonka. Now, to be fair, there was a deadline of Friday that both men were meant to have their paperwork in order to qualify for the deadline, the 7-day deadline before the fight. And Andy couldn't get his in either. They both messed up in the first place. But so if they hadn't been granted an extension, then both of that it would have canceled each other out. Like, they both messed up. But there was an extension granted, and Andy Worski was able to get his paperwork in on time, get his blood work in on time. But when Tonka turned in his paperwork, my understanding is he signed a name he uses in his daily life, or at least in his, casual, like, private life, but it's not his legal name. That's my understanding. And then he went and had his blood work done, but the doctor's office requires your legal name. So there's, he signed a contract with a name that wasn't his. That would be like me, like some people used to call me Kiki, right? That would be like me signing a contract saying Kiki Winters instead of Kristi Winters. That's not a legal contract. You can't do that. And for someone who claims to have been a professional, or at least participated in this industry before, you would think Tonka Saw would know you can't sign a stage name or even your nickname as your legal name. Anyway. So the names on the stuff didn't match. And as a consequence, not only did the paperwork not match up because he didn't sign his name, he also turned it in, I understand, about 15 minutes after the deadline. So he failed on all counts to do basic paperwork. And as a consequence, the fight was called off. And that created a lot of drama in that community because people had made plans to go see the fight and everything else. So yes, that was the drama. And I don't know that Tonka even showed up in Knoxville. I think they were going to have this fight. Tennessee. I don't know what their laws are like. I think it was Tennessee. But Andy, in my opinion, I mean, he wins by default, just by turning up, and having the correct paperwork. He takes the W. I don't know how else you can say that. If you can't get your paperwork done, come on. So that's internet drama. That's and I don't think you're going to see that from lefties. I don't have any desire to physically fight anybody because I disagree with their arguments. That just seems really silly to me. All right. So should we get back to a little bit of newsy news stuff? And we talked a bit about this crazy week we've been having under Trump. Sorry, let me I really like this background that I've got going on. I think it's really pretty. Yeah, there we go. Trump has negotiated himself into a corner. Well, he didn't really negotiate himself in a corner. He just put himself in the corner. Because he... you know my take on the Trump shutdown? Alright. It's pretty obvious from watching Donald Trump for 2 years that he doesn't have any ability to negotiate whatsoever. It's very obvious that since he started in his business, because he inherited a lot of wealth and a lot of money, and his dad seems like he was a pretty aggressive racist, also businessman, Trump isn't a negotiator, he's a bully. What he does is, instead of trying to give people he's negotiating with part of what they want, he wants to smash them down until he gets 100% of what he wants and they lose. And when you try that in politics, it's not going to go very well, especially when you have co-equal branches of government that are willing to stand up to you. Trump had a GOP that basically asserted no congressional oversight or authority. It basically handed, if you want to say metaphorically, it handed Trump its balls on the day of the inauguration and collaborated with him and covered up for him. And as a consequence, he isn't used to, he doesn't bring any ability to negotiate, and he never even had to practice negotiations with his Republican House and Senate. They, it would have been, if Trump wanted to get the wall done, he could have been using Mitch McConnell and the House process all the way around, all the way along, to get funding for his wall. He could have put it into his own budget. He could have taken the deal for $25 billion for DACA 2 years ago, but he wanted point scoring more than he wanted policy solutions. And he's back in that same position, but he's worse off now than he was. And now he's like, he's so dumb. Can I explain how dumb Trump is? Donald Trump is so dumb that, you know, rather than allowing a bill, a continuing resolution that was set to pass before Christmas and kept the government going and, you know, would have eased things over, we would have had an extension, government would have stayed open, and he could have started negotiating with the Democrats in the House and Senate in the start of the year. But instead, he decides midway through, after the Senate, after Mitch McConnell had voted on the continuing resolution, Trump blows up the process because of Ann Coulter and Rush Limbaugh, and then has now been sitting for 3 weeks. How many weeks now? Is it 5 weeks? I can't remember how long the shutdown has been going on. I think it's, well, I know it's the longest one in history, but 20 plus days, or what day are we on? I'm not sure. Sorry. But now he's got this massive shutdown that he's taken ownership of. And when he tries to offer any way out, Ann Coulter and Rush Limbaugh are just going to crap all over him anyway. He was never going to make Rush Limbaugh or Ann Coulter happy unless he got a complete sort of acquiescence from the Democrats, a complete surrender of the Democrats. And that's just not going to happen when Nancy Pelosi is Speaker of the House. He has no ability to assess political strength, political positioning, or even to understand who he should be listening to in his own base. He should not be listening to Ann Coulter or Rush Limbaugh. You know why? Because as much as they talk, they are not going to get him votes from outside of his base. And he can't win with just his base. So he gets himself into a box canyon, and the Democrats are just shooting down at him from an elevated position because he's already owned the shutdown. He's branded it the Trump shutdown. And they can just make pot shots and pass bills saying, hey, we're ready to open the government, just have the Senate vote on it. We've got all these bills, we're ready to go. This is the language the Republicans used, Nancy Pelosi pointed out. We're using Republican language to pass these bills to get the government open. That's what she's willing to do as leader in order to get the government open. And he has to keep saying no to this. So now he's come down a bit. He's offered he's so bad at this, you guys. He really is, and I'm going to show you why he's so bad at this. So Trump offered a 3-year extension of protection for Dreamers in exchange for $5.7 billion for a wall. He's basically taken Dreamers hostage and says, for $5.7 billion, I'll let them go for 3 years. Well, one, he's not going to be president when it's time for this to go ahead. But so in some ways, you know, the whole premise of this is that he wants money for a wall, and he has to figure out what Democrats want. This is how compromise works, right? So he obviously, like, somebody is telling him, you need to offer some kind of thing for the Democrats to buy in. You know, way back when it was $25 billion on DACA, and he turned that down, and now he's coming back with like 5.7 and giving in on policies of Dreamers and other what's the word I'm looking for, like immigration status extensions. And Ann Coulter and Rush Limbaugh are going crazy because he's giving up anything. So they're going to crap on him anyway, and he can't get out of this. He's going to have to eventually lose face. He's going to have to lose face on this. I don't know how else this is going to end, because unless you give Nancy Pelosi and the Democrats something they actually want, something that he doesn't, I don't think, understand the Democrats' position well enough to know what they want. And so he can't, this is going to be a nightmare. This is going to be an absolute nightmare. What else is going on in politics? Oh, I guess at this point, if you guys want to put some questions in. Yeah, so it gets a thumbs down from Democrats. Yeah, why would they negotiate for a 3-year extension as opposed to a permanent fix? If you're going to offer something, a wall is supposed to be permanent, right? If the idea of the wall is that it's going to be built and be permanent, then whatever it's traded for, it should also be permanent. So that happened. Oh, as long as I'm here as well, I want to give a bit of a shout out to Dusty Smith. If you guys check out, I did a shout out for Dusty and his video. Here, I'll just go here. Dusty Smith, Dusty Bearing, Kristi. Yeah, you see all my stuff. Yeah, he's done some great videos. I mean, Dusty always does fantastic videos. But on the happy hour last time, we mentioned I mentioned the video he did on the Gillette ad. And then this morning, I didn't have a chance to finish it, but I saw enough to be convinced. Dusty did a really good video with some more context for the MAGA hat kids story. That looks like the video shows the vet approaching the group of students. And as I am trying to be fact-based and data-led, I was not seeing that part of the story advertised in the media. We see the video tends to be from the confrontation you can see on screen, and then also there's one where you see all the students around him when they start to shout. But there's also some video, it looks like, of him approaching, so check that out on Dusty Smith's video, Smitty video, and I see some random geek has put up that link in the chat. Words are hard on a Sunday after only one cup of coffee. Alright, so that little shout out there. I said I was going to talk to the chat. I'm trying to decide if I can talk to the chat using my window or if I can, which one? It's this one, I think. Yes. Transition. Boom. Let's see. Yeah, see, okay, here's why I don't like reading off the screen, because the font is very, very tiny, and then I end up having to look like I'm really old and peering because it's about 4-point font. So, but I think I can read it here. Someone asked, have I considered starting the process of becoming a real German? Anything than a US American. I'm worried about my US friends. I do have the paperwork on my desk to become a permanent resident. So now in Germany, I've been here since 2011. I've had a valid work permit that usually gets extended to 3 years at a time associated with my contract, but now I've sort of lived here long enough to work independent of my contract. And I could claim unemployment benefits to help me wait till I found another job or whatever else afterwards. I will probably get permanent residency just because when you're a permanent resident, it allows you to extend the length of your permit to the same date as your passport. So my residency, the validity of my residency card to live in Germany would be the same dates as my American passport, so I just changed both of those at the same time, which would be every 10 years. So, I mean, it only costs like 80 euros. It's really super cheap to get your paperwork done in Germany compared to the UK, where it was, well, I was doing it before 2010 and it was already £400 that I recall, and I'm sure it's gone up since then. So I can't imagine not being an American, though. I have far too strong of opinions to not have my American citizenship, even if it means I have to pay, well, I have to file taxes from abroad, because voting is so important to me. And I don't know, and I've not seen evidence that I can hold dual citizenship as an American and a German citizen. And I don't know if I feel, I know this sounds weird, but I don't know if I feel German. I mean, I like living in Germany. I appreciate living here, but I'm not, you know, I still identify very much as an American. And even though I sort of in my heart feel European, I don't know that I would feel entitled to or right about voting in European elections or German elections simply because I'm not well enough educated on them. And that is why I think I will maintain residency or get permanent residency, but maintain my American citizenship. Good morning, Memento Mori. Oh, Memento Mori, that means a remembrance of death. And I don't know if you saw, I did a little video about this cool church. Well, cool in a morbid way. There's a little church near where I work that has a room that's a bone chamber. They found probably a Roman grave, and they mistook the bones for Catholic saints, and they actually decorated a room with human bones, which is both horrific and it just is sort of you can't take your eyes off it as well, because they form all of these sort of patterns and things. But Memento Mori just is a remembrance of death. What are my thoughts on bomber guy giving over 150,000 for the mermaids. I saw that on Twitter. I think it's fantastic. That's a hugely powerful platform that he has. And it's really, really great that he can wield it for good. So, yeah, hats off to H. Bomber Guy. Now that I'm thinking about it, Little Witch Academy... Oh, you guys are talking about some other stuff. You're an immigrant who isn't trying to sway my local election. That doesn't fit the UKIP narrative. No, it doesn't. No, it doesn't. Not at all. Not all of us immigrants are coming over in order to ruin the voting system, which is such a Republican lie, because you can't even vote for like years and years and years. You have to be, it's so... Becoming an American citizen is a long, expensive process, and it's not that easy. So I don't see questions popping up anymore. I don't know if that's because you guys aren't talking as much. But I'm sorry I don't have too much for you guys in this Sunday. It's really because I'm packing to go to Prague. I have to do a training for 2 days, and that is far more on my mind, it has been at least, than this. So I guess what I'll do is, if you guys want to throw out some more questions in the chat, I'll do a few more of those. This might be a pretty quick show this week, again, because of my real life commitments getting in the way. And yeah, that's I guess just how it's going to be. I guess what other thing I could talk about, although I'm not really prepped for it, but I had an appearance on a right-wing show over the week, or during the week, and I went on to talk about rape culture, sort of. Like, I wasn't going on... So my idea in my appearance was to try to get people to see beyond the word rape culture, which tends to shut them down. Like, people who oppose the concept of rape culture hear it, and I think their brains then automatically shut down to some of the information or other stuff that follows it. And so my idea was to present the process rather than talk about the concept. And I went in and mentioned that my analysis, I did an analysis based on the Pennsylvania case. Maybe if I'll see if I can get my video up. Not we're going to watch my own video on my show. That would be a little bit self-indulgent. But I can probably find the video that I made on this by going into my own channel. If you haven't seen it, I would actually recommend it. This is a reason why I want to bring this up, is because it's a video I'm pretty proud of, and I'm noticing that I'm getting quite a lot of people saying that I explain rape culture in a way that they haven't heard of before. And that makes me happy, because it means that I am getting a message across to people that maybe before they wouldn't have considered. Now, I'm looking for my video, and for some reason, okay, now it's showing up. Okay, I can pause this and now flip over to my other screen. I can show you what that looks like. So, since I went and talked about it, and maybe people haven't seen it, I can talk about it again. Is my OBS being kind of choppy, you guys? Maybe I can turn a few things off to help that. So, yes, swap the screens. A couple months ago, I watched the Pennsylvania State Attorney General discuss the results of a grand jury report about 6 dioceses in Pennsylvania, and they had identified over 1,000 victims of sexual abuse and over 300 abusive priests just in those 6 dioceses over 70 years, or at least 7 decades. I keep forgetting the length of the investigation, but it went way back. And in my video, I describe how I watched this and looked at how the grand jury identified actions taken by the Catholic Church, and that when I watched it, I saw them using their institutional powers as the Catholic Church to cover up sex crimes. And I talked a little bit in this video about first, the data and methods. So what were the data and how did I go about doing it? And then what theories informed my analysis, because I'm not coming at it from the position of a feminist critique, I'm coming at it from a social science, like a political science critique. How does this institution using its powers to achieve an end? And then using that, I clustered the observations and came to a larger conclusion, which is the overall structure that guided and perpetuated the activities of the Catholic Church, not just in Pennsylvania, although I only had data for Pennsylvania, but this linked up to global actions through their secret archive and moving priests around the country, and concluded, based on the data from the Pennsylvania case, that what was really motivating the church, the men who had positions of power, not just the priests, but the archbishop, the cardinals, the bishops, all the way up to the pope. There is a common emotional drive behind these behaviors, and that emotion is one of protecting the institution. It's protecting the institution at the sake of the victims. And that goes, and it went all the way up, and I think it still goes all the way up into the Vatican. So because of this desire to cover up and protect the church, individual people with authority, men with authority, used actions in various ways in order to protect the reputation of the Catholic Church, again at the expense of the victims. And that motivation, combined with actions, produced a rape culture in which pedophile priests were protected and moved around and allowed to victimize new children rather than being turned over to the police and prosecuted. And that's a rape culture. That's a culture where you are enabling sexual predators to continue their predation. And within that, I then narrowed down, I identified 3 streams of actions I saw being taken by the Catholic Church. One was to control language, the other was to control the victims, and the final one, in terms of their internal practices, was to control information about what had gone on and make sure victims didn't talk to each other. And then they used their external powers, their reputation, their links with politicians, their money, their advertising, PR firms, their lawyers, the fact that they can outwait a statute of limitations. You know, a human being only lives so many years. The Catholic Church is an institution, doesn't die. So went on and explained this process, and I tried to avoid the phrase rape culture and just described what the data said. And the data described this complicated, interconnected conspiracy to cover up the sexual abuse of children. Now, during that, I saw Coach Red Pill in my chat. Coach, you tried to make the argument that this was a gay culture, that it was somehow the Catholic Church had constructed a gay rape culture. And I have to say, when I went on, it was 5 o'clock in the morning. So I was a little bit waking up, but I want to explain why that's wrong. I wasn't able to, I think, that well. Andy Worski, actually, on this program, stepped up and said, yeah, Hollywood is like this too. You know, you've got the Weinstein company. And that's another, and I agreed with Andy. I thought that was a good assessment, because if you look at the Harvey Weinstein case, he had a motivation to protect himself from prosecution and exposure. And so he took actions within his company. He used the formal processes of his company, for instance, to write into his contract that he couldn't be fired for sexual abuse claims. He would be fined by the company, and his punishment would be the fine and having to pay the court costs himself. And he used his staff to help him. You know, there's all these ways that he used his institutional power to get access to victims and then to cover it up. But getting back to this, so it's the same process regardless of the motivations. But what Coach was trying to say is he was using the fact that a disproportionate number of the victims are boys. And then, because, you know, I don't know how much of that is just an issue of access, because girls aren't altar girls as much, at least certainly not before. And so I'm not sure how much of this is actually, you know, it's based on sexual predation and opportunistic predation. Because the reason why it's not a gay rape culture, it's pretty easy. The Catholic Church is dominated by straight men. That's who runs the Catholic Church. And the motivation of the straight guys who are running the Catholic Church isn't to protect gay relationships. That's not what the rape culture is. The Catholic Church's rape culture is about the sexual abuse of children, regardless of their sex. If you look at the story, like in the New York Times, the 2 instances they mention, well, they mention 3 instances, and 2 times they give the gender, it's girls. One was a priest who'd raped a girl who had been in the hospital after having her tonsils taken out, I think. And another one was a priest who was still allowed to continue in the Catholic Church even after he got a girl pregnant and forced her to have an abortion. So I think I just want to address this because people have reached out and said, this is the other thing, people have reached out and said they had not heard rape culture explained like that before, and that they were surprised and that they understood it, like they could see where I was coming from, and it made a lot of sense. And some of them said Coach had a good point, and I just wanted to say, no, he didn't. Explain why he didn't. And the reason why he didn't is because by trying to, he's mischaracterizing it by putting it around sexual orientation. And the rape culture of the Catholic Church existed before there was an open gay culture or anything like this. I think the Catholic Church has had this rape culture for as long as the Catholic Church has existed. And you can't tell me that in all of the millennia, the Catholic Church has been run by gay men. You just like, I just don't believe that. There's just no evidence of that whatsoever. What we see, it's not about the sexual orientation of either the victims or the perpetrators. The Catholic Church constructed a rape culture to cover up child abuse. All children. And so I think it's a distraction that Coach's off the cuff attempts to just derail it. It's just not accurate. It's not based in the data. It's not based in the evidence of the Pennsylvania case, and it also just doesn't map onto the history of the Catholic Church and the kinds of people who are running it. It's a rape culture because the men who built it wanted to cover their ass rather than protect children. So as I said, I went on, and I've been pleasantly surprised. Like I wasn't expecting the reaction I was getting. I did think that a few people would say, yeah, I've not heard that before, and I'm really glad you explained it in that way because I saw something I didn't. I wasn't ready for the number of people who reached out. So I don't know what to do. I feel like I could possibly do more to give attention to this explanation, and I think it does break down people's preconceptions of what rape culture means. I don't know how to get more attention to this, though, so I don't know, maybe I need to pair up with somebody who's bigger, like a ContraPoints or an H-Bomber guy, to give a boost to this explanation, because, again, from what I hear, when I've explained it on podcasts and when I've explained it in my own video, or even in a particularly not, friendly format, or for me, anyway, clearly I'm explaining things in a way that gets through to people. And I want to know how to do that better. How do I do more of that, you guys? Because it's not about me or my, it's not about me or my ego. It's about having people debate the problem, not the word. And the other reason why I chose rape culture when I went on, and why I wanted to focus on it, was because I think we spend too much time arguing about the word itself and not about the actual problems. I would rather talk about how do we blow up the Catholic Church's rape culture? How do we get inside the Catholic Church and investigate it and hold people accountable and look at an open reform process, a reconciliation and confession process, to bring more lay people in, to bring experts on sexual assault in, so that the Catholic Church stops this. It is, in the West, where we have, in some countries in the West, where we have these kinds of laws that allow us to investigate and get beyond the walls that the Vatican hides behind. But there are a lot of countries that don't or aren't interested in doing that. Highly Catholic, high rates of Catholic adherence might mean that while instances are talked about, they're not prosecuted, and this needs to be blown up globally. So the more time we spend arguing over the words rape culture, the less time we're actually focused on the problem. how do we blow up the Catholic Church? Like, not physically blow up, but metaphorically blow up their rape culture. Yeah, that's a good question. I think, you know, I'm to the point where it's like, bring it all down. I don't think you can reform. I don't think a bunch of celibate men who've been raised and sort of indoctrinated their entire careers within a rape culture have the moral capacity to get out of it. You can't solve the problems of rape culture from purely within a rape culture. And I think they need to have they need to have outsiders come in and reset their moral compass. Oh wow, someone gave me money. Dudes, guys, wow. Lefty Twitter needs to stop dogpiling the kids. They are constructed homegrown modes of behavior. We need to... Are we talking about... Okay, yeah, so thanks for the £5. I can't really see it too well, but Theroian. And on that, you know, like I said, when I saw the Dusty Smith video, I had to reconsider my view and reconsider all the tweets that I was seeing online. I'm not saying that shouting build the wall was right. I'm not excusing the kids entirely, but what I'm saying is that the narrative is incomplete. And if it's the case that he approached them, that's fine. He can own that. He's grown up. He can do that. But I think that context does need to be put out there. I think regardless, though, the Catholic school that they came from is going to have to deal with their behaviors because it's just too far in the media now. I'm not saying that they didn't do anything wrong, but I don't think that we're getting the complete picture now, and I think that should be included. I'm just really into ideas. Hey, Rave Dubin, you're really into the free marketplace of ideas, huh? Nice one. Oh yeah, because Patreon, I'm going to talk about that. Did I see Destiny's debate with the Killstream dopes, and what did I think? I heard about it. He was on the day before me, and because of that, I'm going to move something over here. It might stop. No, that's still going. I was checking something on my OBS. I was booted. I was on the day after Destiny, and I got the dates wrong because Monday for them is Tuesday for me, and I had Tuesday in my head that I was going to appear, so I actually woke up at 5 o'clock in the morning on Tuesday, but that was the wrong day, so when I realized that it was Destiny's day, I went back to sleep and did not watch it because it was 5 o'clock in the morning. And then the next morning was supposed to be me, and then it was the Brexit vote, so Ethan and Ralph talked about getting Kevin on, but then that got pushed back, and so then I had to do a next one at 3 in the morning, and because I was getting up at 5 o'clock in the morning 3 days in a row, that's where the 3 came from, 5 o'clock in the morning 3 days in a row, I didn't watch it. So no, and my appearance was actually pretty short because I was coming on at the very end of the show. I did a stream with Destiny once. Yeah, I also messed up the time, so I think he was kind of cranky, but that might just be how Destiny is. He might just be kind of curt and always typing on the side, but that felt like a hard show, to be honest. That felt like that was a rough show. It did feel like a natural flow. Kevin and I have a natural back and forth, you know. We have a banter, and when there are long silences or pauses, but maybe I'm overreacting. What else have you guys got to see? Did I see the charity stream? Raised 150,000. Yeah, someone also brought it up. I already gave H-Bomb props for that. Do I think Steve Shives could become an anarchist? Well, I don't... in terms of a possibility in the world, it exists. I don't really know what that would accomplish or why he would want to be an anarchist. To be honest, can I tell you, the biggest problem I have with anarchy, when it's explained to me, is all the meetings. Like, I can't... Like, if I have to sit in meetings with other people and try to convince them, I would much rather have substantive and descriptive representation than direct democracy on every single issue. Had a bad sleep too, 2 cycles, just sleeping. Yeah, getting on a bad sleep cycle is rough. Because you have to get up, but then you have to function as well, and it's hard to function well when you can't get up or when you've gotten up at a weird time. And I don't know about you guys, but if I get up much earlier than I'm sort of scheduled to, I wake up, I'm super tired, then I feel nauseous for about 20 minutes, and then I start to feel okay again, which is another reason why I hate getting up in the morning, because I always have this nausea that is associated with waking up too early. And I'm going to have it again because my flight is at 7 o'clock in the morning when I fly to Prague, which means I have to be to the airport at 6:30 in the morning, which means, yeah, working backwards. Oh, I hate getting up in the morning. Absolutely hate it. What other comments do we have? Destiny is one of the most nihilistic commenters ever. I really relate to him, but he also kind of scares me. Yeah, fair enough. Anything else, you guys, you want to chat about? I'm being really super... I should have said, hey, open chat and lightning round and all that stuff that Steve does, but I'm just freaking lazy. I can tell you, though, that if you're a patron of the show, next Sunday, after I'm back from a conference I have to go to on Friday as well, so it's like 3 days, and then a Friday conference. My next week sucks, but next Sunday, we're going to be doing the patron hangout, so if you are a supporter of the channel and the Resistance Fund, you can join me next week Sunday. It looks like it's probably going to be, I don't know when Steve Shives is doing his, but just to make sure I don't bump up against his, it'll probably be at 7:05 p.m. my time, 6:05 p.m. London time, what is that, 1:05 p.m. Eastern? So that will be happening as well. Everybody in the chat's beautiful. Have a blessed day. One way we can just deconstruct the Catholic Church is to play Pope Pinata. I don't know about that. I'm like, I have a, what, you know, what would be funny if you had a Pope Pinata and you actually had stuff in it. I had an adult Pinata that I made for a friend for their birthday party or some other party. And I went into town in the UK and I bought little shots of alcohol, and I went to Ann Summers, which if you live in the UK you'll know, and I bought some things from there and some condoms, and that's what I put into the piñata. I didn't tell anybody. So I brought this piñata to a party all filled with adult recreational items. And it was only grown. It was when I was at university. And I remember we had a broom that we were using to try to break the piñata, but the piñata was so well made and constructed. It was like serious cardboard. And I don't know why I'm telling you this story, but I'll just finish it now. The friend who was hosting the party, we were banging on that thing and banging on it, couldn't get the dang thing to open. So she went into the house, and she was a huge fan of the Lord of the Rings, and someone in her family had actually given her, I can't remember whose sword it was, but actually one of like the sort of a replica sword from Lord of the Rings with the Elvish, branded into it. I can't think of the right word. And she just came out and started hacking at it with the sword. Eventually got it open, and everybody liked the things inside. But she was this like sort of like not even 5 foot tall woman, and she had this big ass sword, and she's trying to chop down this piñata. It was a very, very funny mental image. I don't know if it was enough of a funny story really to tell you guys, but in my head I'm just picturing her with this big ass sword on this. It was a donkey piñata, very, very brightly colored, and she's just hacking away at it. I think I'm gonna have to switch to you guys are writing longer stuff, and the font is really small, so rather than straining, I'm just gonna go ahead and open it up. Tell you what, I've been going an hour. I will take a 5-minute break, as we normally do. If you guys want to come up with some questions during the break, so go do a Sargon, a tea and a poo. You can check other channels. You can go on Twitter, or you can just sit and listen to the music, whatever you like. I will be back in 5 minutes. Gonna go refresh my coffee, stretch my legs, and then if there's anything you guys want me to talk about, why don't you put it in the chat? Tell you what, put it in the chat now. I will keep an eye on the chat as I'm making my coffee, and if there are any questions or topics that come up, we'll do that. One possibility is I did see a really, I thought, powerful freestyle part from Token on Shade 45. He's talking about the impact of his art, and I saw it last night. Maybe I'll bring that up and I can do a reaction to that or share it with you guys. But if people aren't going to come up with stuff, then I'll probably just wrap it up by like 20 minutes after the hour or a half hour after one. So I'm already into my 5-minute break, so let's meet back here at 6 minutes after the top of the hour. For those of you watching, we should all be on the same, unless you're in India where it's like on the half hour, sorry. But so I've got 13:01, let's meet back at 13:06, and I'll see you guys then. Okay. How are you guys doing? Managed to not forget to unmute myself. Sorry, I took a little bit longer. I ended up filling my coffee so high I needed to give it a kiss in order to get it, like, so not spill, but I spilled it anyway, and then I had to clean up the mess because I couldn't just leave coffee there to dry while I was on air, and so, you know, I had to clean everything up. I didn't see much in the chat on the way back, so I'm going to do two things, and then I'll look at the chat one more time. And remember, it is a good idea if you can tag me in or use question or something, because if you guys are having side conversations, I can't always identify what's a question to somebody inside the chat versus a question to me. But I do want to share one geeky thing with you. Thing that I like in my, like, one thing I like in my life, or like I'm grateful for. When I went to Prague, in 2012, probably, or 2011, and while I was there, I discovered that Alfonso Mucha is, or Mucha, but I pronounce it Mucha. I could be wrong. He is a Czech artist who worked in Paris in the late 1800s. This is an example of his work, and it's, move it, which way do I move it? This way? All right. His work is all over Prague. If you go to it, he was a hugely successful, celebrated artist in the Czech Republic. He actually, near the end of his life, he worked in the late 1800s, but he lived until the 1940s, and he was in the Czech Republic when the Nazis came through and they brought him in for questioning, and detained him for a while and eventually let him go, but he died shortly thereafter. And I think it's hard to see, but I absolutely love the wrong way. This, yes, that's better. A little bit on the shiny side, but I absolutely love his style. He was a commercial artist and did graphic, like advertising, like graphic arts advertising, and so here's an example of right there his product work. But he also, through his graphic art techniques, designed posters for Sarah Bernhardt, who was a really famous Paris actress at the time, and got to be known for his particular style and look. And while I am, all of this is an Ado saying, oh, here's more advertising. I just, like, you can tell, maybe you can tell by the color scheme behind me why I might like Mucha. There we go. And there is a Mucha museum, like, dedicated to the artist in Prague, and I went last time and got several products with his artwork on it, and my one must-see in Prague is to go back to the museum there and get more things to put on my wall, because, yeah, I don't know, sometimes you just find an artist whose vision or whatever, like, really appeals to you, and Mucha is definitely one of mine. Then the other thing, what I decided to do was, yeah, I was gonna do that bit with Token, I decided. Token and Sway. Yep, I've got the full video here, so let me get it kind of set up. Now, I know it's right at the end, so you guys might have to bear with me a little bit. Should I swap? I should probably swap to the screen, shouldn't I? Me small. Transition. Yep, okay. It's not very much. It's at the end, he decides to go a cappella, and it's clear he prepared this to do on air, and because it meant a lot to him. The background to this is apparently he had done a song about gun violence. I'm not being in the States, I don't really know it's on the air, but he had done a video, and yeah, let me see if I can find. The sound isn't coming through. Do I have it muted? Nope. I really should check these things before I go on air, shouldn't I? Let me. Nope. Sorry, guys. Let's see if it's playing in the desktop. No sound is coming through. So let me see if I can figure out why that is. And I can't, because for some reason I can't get to my sound things. Ah, bummer. Alright, well, what I would say, you guys, is if you have a chance, I'll go toward near the end of this, like around 37 minutes in. If you have a chance, I'm really bummed that I can't get this to work. I should have set this up, like I said, beforehand. It doesn't seem to be coming through, and because my screens are extended, I can't get over me. No, nothing is coming up on my toolbars, so I can't change the settings on this as I normally would. Bummer! Alright, well, next time perhaps, guys. I'll get that set up. But the reason I'm bringing it up is because it was so unexpected when I was watching this. And he talks about music he made and then the impact of it. I don't want to kind of give it away. So instead, what I would say is go ahead and have a look at that video. I'm going to bring it down so you can see the title of it. Right. Nope, you can't see it. I've got it on the wrong screen for that. Sorry guys, see, this is what happened. I can buy or take you along on a walk on the St. Charles Bridge or something like that. Prague is beautiful, absolutely wonderful. Come back, Kristi. I'm not going anywhere. I will come back. Move toward the light. Thank you, John. This way to the light, or get blown out by all the sunlight here? That would be it. All right. Well, I'm sorry I don't have more to talk about. I really do like being on air with you guys and just having a bit of a chatty chat. Perhaps for February, we can find a way to maybe do like kind of a call-in where if someone has a question or something, I can bring you in on Skype. Because and I guess I'm just going to fill time. I think I am not going to try to move Kevin into the OBS environment. So Kevin, Logan, if you're watching, just to let you know, and the reason for that is, I actually think the Hangout setup we have now in Google is finally good. Like, between Kevin actually having a stand and mostly using his headphones, and me having my headphones, which I don't need because I'm not listening to any audio, and having this new nice speaker that I can control the sound from, the audio quality is really good. Kevin can hear me in real time from the audio coming through my mic, and you guys, so we're all listening to the same audio. You and me and Kevin, all the audio is coming through my mic, so we're all listening simultaneously. If I switched over to OBS, Kevin wouldn't be able to hear the sounds through my desktop. I would, and you would, but he wouldn't be able to. And because of that, I would need to say, oh, you need to pause at this minute and start at this minute and pause at this minute and start at this minute. And I was just thinking, is there any possible way Kevin Logan would be able to like interrupt us all the time and keep up with that? Oh, I'm at minute this and second this. And I just like realized the OBS environment would be a nightmare with Kevin. Not because like Kevin's a nightmare, just because of our style, like how we set things up. So I think I will try to do the OBS stuff here on the Sunday show, and I will try to work in a way to bring in callers or people to chat. I have to, if you guys know how to set up like a second Skype account off of your main account, I don't want to use my main Skype account. I'd like to have a show account. Maybe I just need to set up a different email and, have a show account. But that way, yeah, I could invite some people in to be on the show, and then we could have a longer, maybe, 2 or 3 hours a week. So. Yeah, am I implying that Kevin can be stopped from interrupting? Not at all. Kevin is a force unto himself. He cannot be stopped, he can only be contained. He does acknowledge that he interrupts a lot, but I think he just gets really excited and doesn't think, ooh, let me hold on to this until they finish their sentence. I think he just gets excited and goes, what? And the hard part is that I would love to interrupt Kevin, but I try to let him finish, and then sometimes he goes on and I've forgotten my point, and then I sound dumb because I forgot my point. Could I end future episodes of this and also the happy hour with heartwarming, uplifting news stories and videos as a nice inoculation against the depressing, albeit funny stuff you cover? Okay, yeah. I only want to talk to you. You mean you only want me on air? Yeah, that's a valid point about the nonsenseness, or the sort of the way that life is a bit crap, and we could all use some joy from time to time. I will see what I can do. I'm going to check my Twitter right now because I remember seeing some adorable videos. I use this too. I have a social media strategy that involves actively consuming counter shit content. Like I actively try to seek out stuff that's not complete rubbish in order to make myself, you know, like feel human again. I remember sharing earlier some really adorable video, so I wanted to see if I could find that on my Twitter feed. And I'm not seeing it. It was a really adorable video about hedgehogs, but I'm not seeing it. I can, though, in the future. Maybe find a cute cat video or something along those lines to share to make life feel a little bit better. But most of the stuff I have is, and I can't do videos either because I don't think the sound comes through. But one funny thing that happened this week, not really funny, but ironic, is that I got blocked by Count Dankula on Twitter for criticizing him. The guy who wants everyone to accept his stuff is a joke. His, you know, Nazi saluting pug dog with Holocaust imagery and calling for genocide, giving the command for genocide over 20 times in a short video, couldn't handle a bit of criticism. That's pretty funny. So yes, I can try to do that, but because I am not organized enough this week and I did not pre-prepare adorable content to share, I won't be able to. I'll just do a quick scroll through here, see if I can find any nice videos of... Oh, well, no. I can show you this one. And it's a cute video, but it only really relates to the fact that Vadim put up a tweet about Carl, and it's the one where his cheeks look really big, and when I saw that, it just made me... It always makes me think of squirrels. So I put up this little funny GIF. I say GIF because I remember the Jif peanut butter from the States. But question, what about just having discussions on online forums rather than meetings in anarchism? Discussions in online forums. So I thought the part of anarchism about having meetings was to make sure people are engaged. And if you have online forums, then you're going to have a lot of free riders. So if you don't, I don't know if people know about Olson's logic of collective action. Olson is an economic theorist, but it's an economic theory that is a lot of applications in political science as well. And Olson's logic of collective action is that, how to best describe it. I guess is with a case study rather than trying to give it a definition. So Olson's logic of collective action says that a narrow group or small group with a high amount of interest are likely to be very engaged. So if there's a new tax bill, or let's say there's a new green bill that comes up about petrol tax or something to do with regulating the automobile industry, the people who have the power in the automobile industry, there's only a handful of them. You know, whatever the, like, let's say that there's 50 car manufacturers in the world. There's probably more, but for the sake of this argument, right, there's 50 of those people who are directly impacted by this in terms of their business. Now, the rest of us are also impacted by it on the fact that having cars with more efficient fuel consumption and that are less polluting will have a beneficial impact to our quality of life. But there are, in the United States, you know, over 330 million people who could benefit from this. However, the benefit to us is very, very small, even though there's a lot of us. Whereas the harm to the companies, or not the harm, but, you know, the obstacles to the companies are big, and there are only a few of them. And in logic, and Olson's logic of collective action is saying that people in smaller groups that are more affected are more likely to be active, whereas people are happy for not Greenpeace, but other environmental groups to advocate for fuel-efficient cars, but we're not going to do anything about it. Like, we're just going to let other people, represent us and do that stuff on behalf of us. And so collective action says that in some ways, the more a problem is experienced by people, the less anyone feels directly responsible for it, and then you have less impetus to get involved. It's like recycling your one plastic bottle. If I recycle 9 out of my 10 plastic bottles, and I'm like, oh, God, there's no recycling, from this 10th bottle, I'm just going to throw it in the trash. But I've done 90% perfect and 10% bad, so I'm doing all right. But of course, when you aggregate that up, that has a bigger impact. But we all feel like so in the case of anarchism, when you have people working in online forums who care about the issues and are invested, there's a lot of people who are just going to free ride on that work and not get invested. And I think that that then undermines legitimacy. And I just can't sit through meetings that long. I have too much crap to do in my day to be like negotiating with people on what day we should be collecting garbage. Like I just would not have time for this. Or like how we should do with the separating the, you know, the recycling of our garbage. I don't have time for that in my life. That's why I hired politicians through my vote, you know, to deal with that crap for me so that they can have those arguments and I can complain to them and then they can solve the problem and I can get on with my life. So that's why. The fact that Dankula sounds and acts almost certainly like a Nazi and its free speech protests again miss the point of not being free from consequences. Yeah, I mean, so Dankula was complaining that he was being discriminated against, you know, because he can't get a job or something, or because he got demonetized from YouTube. Your actions have consequences. If he had, for instance, spoken with members of the Jewish community and spoken to the people who were not just Jewish but found his comments offensive and listened and taken that on board and then made a big public video saying, look, I made this as a joke. I knew I was being offensive because he did. He's on the record saying I was trying to be offensive, but I didn't understand fully the consequences of what my words had on other people. I saw it as a joke. I didn't see the harm that it was doing, nor the harm that sharing it was doing. And if he did a sincere apology and retraction and said, I'm going to pay my fine, I acknowledge now that this was a really bad mistake, that I violated the sort of, you know, the laws by the way I disseminated the hate speech that I put into my video, then he would actually be on, like, you know, a redemption path. People would say, yeah, you messed up, but you knew you messed up and you're making an attempt to reform and learn and grow and become a grown-up. And instead, he's doubling down. He's refusing to pay his fine. He said he'd rather go to jail over this than take ownership for his actions. Well, then why would I feel sorry for you that people are not going to want to associate with your racist ass? I don't. I understand where they're coming from. You're an unrepentant racist. And you can say, I don't hate Jewish people, but you put up a video that promotes the hatred of Jewish people. You put it up as a joke, yet people who don't think it's a joke use that kind of stuff to put it out there to get those phrases and that attitude in people's minds. You're a tool of the Nazis. You're, you know, even if you're an unwitting tool of anti-Semitic Nazi assholes, you are still letting yourself being a tool of those people. So if you're going to own it and defend it, you're owning and defending their content that they're using too. Yeah. And I don't have sympathy for you. No. You're not being wronged. You're being held accountable. And UKIP are assisting him in doubling down. Absolutely. Absolutely. UKIP is definitely drifting into being an openly fascist party. They're going to be indistinguishable from the BNP now. There's really no difference. It's just the letters are the only difference between UKIP and the BNP. The sort of respectability politics that they were trying to sell with, you know, Nigel Farage, you know, staying away from open racism and Batten basically embracing openly racist comments. Yes, they're helping him in double down. And I don't know if you saw that. I did put a tweet out this morning because, all right, in this case, I was winding up Carl. He probably won't see it, but I was winding him up a bit. And in there, I can show you that tweet this time actually. Let me just get it up because it's polling data. Sorry, I have to find it first. I post too much stuff on Twitter. Yes, here it is. Okay, ready to transition. Alright, maybe at the next election UKIP can win 0 seats again. If you guys remember, that's from when Carl came onto the happy hour and was trying to promote, like, trying to make it sound like UKIP actually had some like political credibility. And Kevin had this great line where he's like, yeah, maybe the next election you guys can win 0 seats again. And I was reminded of that when I saw this tweet come up, which is the general election nowcast, which currently has Labour. If an election were held today, they would predict that Labour would go up by 19 seats, but still not have a majority. The Conservatives would lose 30. Liberal, I think this is Liberal Democrats M. I don't know what the M is there. +7, UKIP nil point. Greens could even get a seat, and of course, it looks like SNP might lose more Conservative seats. or the SNP might win seats to the Conservatives. I guess that's where that would come from, and maybe Labour too. I think Conservatives might take a real drubbing in Scotland now after this last series of events. But yeah, no seats for UKIP. That's the funny thing. And so yeah, Carl is very much on pace to have that effect. In anarchism, you won't have to work a 40-hour work week, so the less work if anyone pitches in. So I have to spend less of my time in work and productive work and more time in meetings. Some random geek, you're not selling me on this process. I don't mind working a 40-hour week because I don't mind what I do. In fact, in some ways, you know, like so not everybody opposes a 40-hour work week. I like my job. There are times when I'm willing to do it for 10, 12 hours a day when I'm at a conference. So, and also the whole thing about automating everything. You can't automate everything in life. You know, you're going to have people planting and looking at the plants and watering them and checking the irrigation and picking the fruit. You can't do everything, through automation. So, remember him trying to sell UKIP to Kevin? Carl? Yes, that was hilarious. The only strong arm UKIP have is Tommy and his propaganda efforts in disenfranchising the working class. Yeah, well put. I imagine everyone will have a lot more free time. And honestly, I don't mind working an 8-hour day. I mean, to be fair, I'd prefer 6. I think I'm productive about 6 hours out of the 8. Of course, the other 8 are taken up with admin and replying to email. I don't know how much productive that is, but yeah. I'm a capitalist, but I kind of fantasize about a fully automated Marxist cyber utopia. Yeah. I mean, you're always going to need somebody to dig dishes, and we shouldn't disrespect people who do manual labor. I think, in some ways, I've had lots of different kinds of jobs, from fast food work to and cleaning, cleaning toilets and sweeping up, and I've done a lot of retail. I've done a lot of retail hours, and I've done a lot of standing. I've done waitressing, and having to be on your feet, having to lift things, trays, and it's a strain on your back, certainly. But I also think some people just feel really good about being productive, and also work allows us a social interaction. I think part of the reason some people, especially men, tend to go a bit mad when they retire is because their sort of sense of who they are is bound up with their productivity, and also it's where they see their friends and their colleagues. And so I don't demonize work. I think the problem with work has to do with the distribution of the wealth that is created by it, not the work itself. All right. Yeah, because I love being productive. I know. Okay, I am very privileged. Can I just say, I am very privileged. I am in a job where I manage the development of software. I don't write the software, but I'm developing the structure of it in order to allow social scientists to be more productive with their research time. I'm doing a lot of work that helps them do their work faster, which means they get to be more productive, they get to focus on the data analysis, and they get to replicate things more accurately, which means we have better replicated studies, which is better for the scientific knowledge that we're trying to build. And if I create a tool that helps people do their work better, I feel like I've made a contribution. Even if I'm not famous for it or, get a lot of credit for it, the impact of my work will have profound effects. And so that's why I think Marx had a really good point about the fact that capitalism alienates us from our labor. And I grew up, I didn't do agricultural work. I picked rocks, as a kid a couple times, but I never had to do the kind of physical mucking out the stalls of the cows in the barn that my parents did. But I also know that from my own experience, just, like planting a garden or planting flowers and tending to them, or this thing that I made here in the back, this quilt I made in the back. I was going to show you another one, the drunken path that I made, but maybe another week. There is there's a pride in constructing something with your labor and your creativity and realizing it and making it a thing in the world that capitalism denies us in some cases because of the way that piecemeal work, is more efficient, so that you get people doing one part of a widget or one door in a car. but you don't ever get to see the full car at the end of it, so you never feel your work, that accomplishment with your work. And if there is one thing that I think that capitalism has done, or it doesn't necessarily have to do, but certainly can do, is it can disconnect us from that sense of accomplishment. Our accomplishment instead becomes our wages, and that, of course, is underfunded because people are underpaid for the value of their work. That's how capitalists make their money. They sell a product with a markup, and they pay people who created it less, and they put themselves as the middleman. But a fully automated world, I don't even know if I really want that, to be honest. All right, so we're getting kind of off. Plus, we won't have meetings for everything. We don't need to be. I don't know. It sounds like a lot of meetings because everything has to be negotiated. And I was also told, and this might be wrong, not only does everything have to be negotiated, but people have to agree. And I think that while it's a good thing to have. The democratic legitimacy requires a majority to support, and you do need minority protection rights. I don't want to have to sit through meetings again with everybody negotiating every element of everything. I've seen those before, and I have no interest. All right. Well, I know you hate the power capitalism has over a lot of people. I agree. I just don't think in this case meetings are the way to solve it. I think the problem with capitalism has to be countered by the power of government. Government is the only entity that has commiserate power and can be a check on individual economic forces. And I think that a better way would be a reconstructed capitalism that looks at a maximum wage, that looks at redistributing profits not to shareholders but to the workers who created the profits, or demanding or requiring that workers be treated as shareholders for the purposes of it, when they go to a certain level or whatever. Social safety net, universal income, basic income. I think there's a lot of things we can do to alleviate poverty that has nothing to do with the problem of capitalism being privately owned stuff that's work. I mean, I think you can rework the structure of redistribution. And I don't think it's a reasonable goal to put everybody in all of the absolute same economic status. Like, I think that there will probably always be a little bit of unfairness in any system because there's a whole thing about, like, if you work hard or whatever, you should get more. Meritocracy is an idea, and there are a lot of self-starters out there who want to better themselves. But in terms of the fundamental base, healthcare, shelter, enough food to live and to eat and live comfortably, and having some modicum of modern conveniences, that's not beyond us. Everyone should be able to live in a house that's heated and has running water, and have access to healthcare and food, and also have a little bit of money to go on vacation, and a bit of money for for holiday presents or birthday presents, and to be not living paycheck to paycheck. I don't think you need to destroy capitalism to do that. I just think you need a lot of regulation. All right, I am going to be wrapping this up. Some random geek. We're just never going to agree on this. And that's fine. Like, I'm not telling you not to be an anarchist. I'm just telling you I could never be. And as far as Steve, I don't really know. You're just not, like, I'm never going to be kind of talked into it, I think, as long as like that level of meetings, or even because you mentioned that there being experts. People don't trust experts. Like, as we will learn, there's no reason to think that masses of people will trust an expert, and also the experts disagree. So just bringing in experts doesn't make. If you do, it is interesting that if you get people who are confused or ambivalent about a topic. Like, let's say there's the issue of abortion. Like, they personally don't like the idea of abortion, but they're not sure if it should be made illegal for everyone, if that illegality should be imposed on everyone. If you give them more and more information and they're ambivalent, more information doesn't help them make their choice because they get information on both sides. So they stay as ambivalent. So I don't think just appealing to experts, people won't defer to experts the way they do to priests. We see it on Twitter. Who respects experts anymore? Even if you have a PhD, they just mock you and say you can't be trusted. So anyway, did I say I was going to leave? I think I've said that about 5 times now. I'm really going to do it. Thank you guys for stopping in, listening to me babble. And sorry the show wasn't as prepared. Next time it'll be better. I'll do a little video if I remember from Prague, little postcard video. Otherwise, stay here on the channel next week. You'll see in your subscription feed old episodes of the Happy Hour coming up, and then I will be back here next Sunday where we can chat again. So, I've been Kristi. You guys have been awesome. Thank you for your time and attention. Thank you to the people in the future who watched all the way to the end. I can only imagine you don't have much to do today, but thank you for your time. I'm glad you're here. Thank you for the super chats. I hope I got all of them. I hope I mentioned, I think there were just the 2. If I did miss yours, I will reply to you in the comments below. Right, so thanks you guys. Until next Sunday, we'll see you later on. And I'm getting the right button? Yes, I did. Okay, there we go. Bye.